to me! Where did you hide it? He knows you took it, so you better start talking before things get worse.
The manager's voice sliced through the room as he hissed at the waitress to follow him or lose her job. He didn't care who hurt him. He didn't care how tight his grip was on her arm. But at table 7, her husband lifted his head. And the room did not yet know that the quiet man they had ignored all night was the one person no sane man would ever threaten. The restaurant glittered under soft golden lights. Polished floors reflecting chandeliers that swayed gently as if listening to the heartbeat of the night. Guests in tailored suits and sparkling dresses dined in comfort, unaware of the storm slowly forming in the far corner of the room. Everything looked perfect from a distance. Everything appeared calm. But perfection rarely reveals the truth beneath it. Maya moved between tables with her usual grace, her tray balanced effortlessly in her hands despite the exhaustion buried in her bones. Her smile was steady, but her eyes carried shadows that told stories no one cared to ask about. She had worked long shifts for months, giving more of herself than she'd ever received, swallowing disrespect because life demanded that she'd keep going. But even the kindest souls have limits. Dalton, the manager, had been testing those limits from the first day she started. His stare followed her like a stain she could not scrub off. He walked behind her with the confidence of someone who believed the world existed for his convenience. To him, Maya was not a person with dignity. She was an opportunity, a target, a place to dump his authority and twisted entitlement. He wore power like a costume, pretending it made him untouchable. What Dalton did not understand, what he never imagined, was that Maya was not alone tonight. At table 7, Roman sat with an easy stillness that made people curious, but too intimidated to ask questions. He had the posture of a man who trusted his own strength, but never flaunted it. He ate slowly, observing quietly, listening without reacting. There was no ring on the table, no visible sign linking him to Maya. But every time she walked past him, her shoulders seemed to loosen. As though his presence wrapped her in an invisible shield, Roman was not the kind of man who introduced himself loudly. Not the kind who boasted or bragged. His power lived in silence. The kind of silence that made dangerous men step aside. The kind of silence built from past battles, past choices, lost alliances that whispered through corridors most people never dared enter. He came from a world where loyalty was sacred and disrespect was never left unanswered. But tonight, he was simply a husband watching over the woman he loved. Dalton spotted Maya bending to pick up a dropped napkin near table 3, and that was all the excuse he needed. He approached her with heavy footsteps, blocking her path with a smirk that sent a cold shiver down her spine. Without warning, his hand snapped around her wrist, fingers digging into her skin. Maya tried to step back, but Dalton held her in place. His voice dropped into a harsh growl that carried across the closest tables like the low rumble of a brewing storm. He ordered her to follow him to the back, and his grip tightened as if she belonged to him. Roman heard every word. The chair beneath him shifted as he slowly stood. He didn't need to rush. He didn't need to shout. The moment he rose, the air felt heavier, as though the walls leaned in to listen. Some guests paused mid-conversation, glancing around without understanding why they suddenly felt uneasy. Dalton yanked Maya toward the hallway, dragging her like an object instead of a human being. Her breath caught in her throat as panic spiraled through her chest. She pulled once, twice, trying to free herself without causing a scene. But Dalton relished scenes where he controlled the script. He marched her past the kitchen doors, down the dim hallway lined with storage closets and emergency lights. The music from the dining hall faded as the silence of the back corridor swallowed her fear whole. He shoved her toward the bathroom door, blocking her escape with his body. She begged him to stop, begged him to let go, begged him with every ounce of dignity she had left. But Dalton wanted power, not permission. He leaned closer, telling her she would learn her place one way or another. The hallway lights flickered, as if recoiling from the cruelty in his voice. Then the atmosphere shifted. Footsteps echoed through the corridor. Steady and controlled, each one carrying a weight that made Dalton's shoulders tense. The sound was not loud, yet it arrived like a warning wrapped in calm steel. Maya lifted her eyes toward the approaching shadow. and her fear melted into relief so powerful it stung her eyes. Roman stepped into the hallway. His expression did not change. His pace did not change. But the energy in the narrow space shifted with such force that Dalton instinctively let go of Maya's arm. Roman did not run. He did not glare. He simply walked forward until the air itself seemed to part around him. The faint hum of the lights felt louder. The walls felt closer. Dalton suddenly realized he had made a mistake he could not undo. Roman positioned himself between Maya and Dalton with effortless precision. He didn't touch Dalton. He didn't raise a hand. He simply moved into the space that belonged to Maya, reclaiming it with a presence that radiated controlled danger. His eyes locked onto Dalton with a calmness so sharp it felt like a blade against the skin. Dalton swallowed hard. Trapped in a silence he couldn't talk his way out of. Maya straightened behind her husband, her heartbeat steadying as Roman's silent strength wrapped around her like armor. Dalton tried to laugh it off, stuttering excuses. Pretending he had been helping Maya? His voice wavered. Bending under the weight of the truth, Roman already saw in every twitch of his face. Roman stepped forward, slow and deliberate, and Dalton stepped back instinctively. Not because Roman threatened him, but because he did not have to. His calm was more terrifying than anger. His silence shouted louder than any voice could. Dalton felt the truth settling in his bones. He had dragged the wrong woman, and her protector was not a man he should have ever touched. Roman glanced at Maya, and she nodded gently, signaling she was safe now. He shifted his stance, creating a clear path for her to walk out. Maya passed Dalton with her head high, reclaiming the power he tried to steal from her. When they re-entered the dining hall, conversations died instantly. The restaurant seemed to bow, not out of fear, but out of respect for the quiet justice unfolding before them. Maya returned to table 7 and placed her hand on Roman's shoulder, her touch grounding him as he sat back down with composed serenity. Dalton appeared moments later at the edge of the room, pale and shaken, unable to hide the tremor in his hands. The staff whispered quietly. The guests exchanged knowing looks, and the restaurant itself seemed to distance from him. His power had evaporated, stripped away not by noise, but by silence, because true strength doesn't need to roar. True strength stands, walks, watches, protects him tonight. Justice came from table 7, carried by a man who didn't need to remind anyone who he was. The room already understood.